People are people. We make mistakes. They need you. They're asking something from you. It's been a long day, so I'm probably going to have a lot of weird quips here tonight. All right. I haven't recorded a solo podcast in what feels like so long. I'm excited to be back with you guys. They've been hearing a lot from the team. They've been focused on doing some awesome stuff. And so I'm back in the saddle, though, to make sure that you know all about our new course on 10 ridiculously amazing insurance processes your agency needs. So definitely take a look, because today we're going to talk all about an endorsement process that saves your butt. And I got to tell you, we go and we get tons and tons and tons of requests to talk about processes and procedures, which I love, because I think everything could be boiled down to a process. We used to have this big debate between me and Dave Siekman, if you remember him. Still a good friend, still talk to him all the time. In sales, do you need a great salesperson or someone who can follow a process that's a good salesperson? And I always felt process over high diva sales scenario. But I think for so many agencies, it's kind of hard to create a process when you're in it every day, or the agency owner's removed from it. So creating these processes gets difficult, which is why we created this course. And in particular, today, we're going to talk about this endorsement process. And so I'm a heavy believer with processes. There's checklists. I think processes that are on paper tend to just sit there and they don't get used. And then what ends up happening a lot of times is they're great processes, but they're not interacting with the day-to-day operations of the team. And so when you go through a checklist is really an interactive process. It just tells people the next step in line. The trick is getting people to use the process. So I thought we could kick off today to say, hey, I think almost everybody believes in a process. You want it to be like a Starbucks mentality of wherever we go, it's the same look and feel. People are asking the same questions. Now, whether you're a new green team member, which awesome, we're inviting so many new people into this industry out of necessity, the checklists are great. It gives them confidence. It tells them what's next. It gives a training opportunity. We can get them acclimated to taking new calls quicker. For the veteran team, sometimes they struggle. They say, I don't need that. I've been doing this a million years. And I struggle with that a lot, because I always say, hey, the Delta pilot I get on the plane with has been flying for 30 years, still takes a checklist out. People are people. We make mistakes. We don't always know what to ask, or we cut corners, or maybe we're following a process, we're writing in a notepad, which if you listen to anything I do, you know that makes me cringe to even say that, but it does happen. You can't read your handwriting, or have to go back and forth with a client. That's creating a process that's got a lot of friction in it. A checklist really does kind of take away all of the friction points. And so what I thought would be cool is just talk a little bit about, hey, here's some pushback I've gotten over the years when kind of giving people a process. First one, I've been doing it forever. I don't need a checklist. I always say, hey, you might be doing it forever. That means these checklists should be easy breezy, nice and cheesy. It's been a long day, so I'm probably going to have a lot of weird quips here tonight. So that shouldn't be an issue. If you've been doing it forever, you should breeze through the checklist. That's not a reason to not have a checklist. The second thing is we're all a team, which means that we all need to have the same processes. It means you can't follow one that a new person does. So if you're a veteran, that means that you need to step up to the plate and be a leader and lead people to doing it. Oh, my next favorite one. People don't want to be on the phone that long. Look at all the questions I have to ask. So we talk a little bit about this with remarkets and new business. There's the carrier underwriting guidelines, and then there's the agency's underwriting guidelines. And just because you have a carrier that will take something doesn't mean that we should. Similar to the idea that there's what the carrier needs to do a vehicle change, but then there's what we should be getting. And that is a huge different mindset shift. I say endorsement is an opportunity. It's an experience. If we want to make it more of a transaction, you're going to get what you get. We're going to miss talking about gap coverage. We're going to miss asking if they're driving for Uber. We're going to miss asking if they want telematics. There's about 15 different things we really should be getting. And then the curveball comes up, the divorce situation, which still kind of throws me off. So I always say that the best thing we can do is lean on that checklist, but people don't want to be on that phone maybe that long. And I kind of say a couple of things to that. One, they want to be on the phone with you as long as you're engaging, and that's part of being a customer service professional. If you're a wet paper towel, heck no, they don't want to be on the phone with you that long. Who would? So you got to look in the mirror on that one. The second thing I say is they need you. They're asking something from you. They don't have an expectation it's going to take 2 minutes and 32 seconds. They are needing you. If you've gone and bought a new vehicle, do you know how long it takes to get the loan application? Much less than the questions you're going to ask. That's something that's in our own head. And I really feel like it's something we have to work on and work through, because this time thing is ridiculous, to be honest with you. It's faster, right? Yeah, you can get the basic information, but what if you missed the garaging address? What if they didn't tell you they moved? What if there's a million and one things? A change represents an opportunity to review everything. Something's different. So let's review that account. Also, A lot of times with vehicle changes, we find that people will get the coverage and then cancel a month later because their car loan payment's higher. So they go shop their insurance. Well, if we did our part and scrubbed the account at that point in time and looked at discounts and deductibles and everything that we could do to make that policy right for the person, we would stop a cancellation later on or a scramble later on. But this whole idea we have to cruise through everything like a bull in a china shop as fast as humanly possible, I just don't subscribe to. Another one I always hear is when they look at our checklist, they're like, oh, they're so long. I mean, I kind of get this where back in the day, we printed a lot more. So everything wanted to be on one page. A quote sheet had to be one page. And I was just like, why? Like front and back? Like, why does everything have to be on one page? It's sort of this mentality that was drilled into us. And I don't think it's fair and or right. Where instead, I'd much rather say, like, okay, let's go ahead and make sure we do the best job. If that takes 8 pages, it takes 8 pages. Because I just can't get my head around the mentality of one page over doing what's right for the customer. And so we have to let go of this one page garbage. All of our checklists, we have people fill them in online digitally. So there's no printing it. We're not wasting paper. We're not trees. And you can just save it and go right there. So you have to ask yourself, why one page? Maybe it's a little intimidating, but then we have to do what we call the freaking first times. The first time you do anything new, it's going to suck. That outlasts the suck. You got to do it 10 times and then it's way more comfortable. This is like a principle we teach in all of our courses, the freaking first time and then do it 9 more times, and then come talk to me about it. So if you're getting pushback on the length of an endorsement checklist, do it 9 times and then come back. The 10th time will make all the difference. And the last one we get pushback on is checking endorsements, which I think is kind of interesting because I think that people make mistakes, carriers make mistakes, and ultimately we don't want the client to feel any of that. So if we maybe make a mistake or we never got that endorsement back and the client thinks they've got coverage and they're going about their merry way, that's difficult. And you will see this because big thing that we get hired to help agencies with is renewal review calls. Well, had there been a process to check endorsements, half the crap you find in a renewal review call wouldn't have existed. I understand it's different, it's new, it's maybe something you have to get used to. But checking endorsements is a huge way to make sure you're doing the right thing for the client. And if even checking the actual endorsements too much, at a minimum, you should be checking that you got it. There should be an open activity to clean it all up. Make sure you received it. Educate the client if that everything went through okay, or a premium change if you can't get it on the phone. But this makes us really, really seem like all-star professionals. So those are the kind of pushbacks that I usually get, but I'm going to be honest with you. A lot of the devil's in the details of how you're going to structure. So in our new course, the 10 ridiculously amazing insurance processes, we actually have 3 endorsement checklists that come with it. One of the whole lessons, one of the 10 endorsements, we've got home, auto, and commercial auto. And we also give you a template so you can create your own. So these are starting points for you. But literally, they have everything. I was just looking at this. Identify the type of endorsement. Is it adding a vehicle, replacing a vehicle, deleting a vehicle, decreasing auto coverage, adding a driver or divorce situation? Like, we're going to go into that much detail on it because you need to know. Sometimes it's not just changing a vehicle or adding a vehicle. We have pivot points in that process to cross-sell because I think so many people feel like, oh, they're buying a new car. They don't want to talk about their home. Untrue. What they don't want to do is talk about it awkwardly. And what they don't want to do is make it a big ordeal. You need to be able to pivot into those conversations. We also want to list all the changes, like in an auto endorsement. We should talk about loan gap and lease gap, new car replacement, aftermarket alterations. Are they doing any ride share? Vehicle usage and mileage. This has changed. A lot of people are working from home now. Telematics. The thing that nobody wants to talk about insurance, but is not going away. We have to get better at that. And looking at rental car reimbursement. If they're adding another vehicle, maybe they don't need it. If they're taking off a vehicle, maybe they do need it now. You also want to make sure you're looking at the coverages and making sure they're up to agency standards. Yes, somebody buying a new vehicle may have an increase in coverage or an increase in premium. That doesn't mean we still shouldn't talk to them if they don't have our agency standard coverages. These are all things that go into the checklist. So imagine your team sounded like a well-oiled machine. And when people called in, they had all these questions asked them so they had the right insurance. And where I struggle is I think a lot of agencies are having an identity crisis where they want to do all these things, but all their processes support McDonald's. Cheap, fast, cheap, fast, cheap, fast, cheap, fast. And we're trying to get away from that. And the only way you're going to do that is by conditioning your people to use a checklist and follow it. And not cut corners, but follow it. The other great thing about a checklist, I'm like a lover of checklists. You could probably put like hearts all over me right now in the video, is that as things change, you can add to them. So telematics wasn't a big thing a couple years ago. Now it is. We can add it to the checklist. But I can also go back and check, are people BSing the checklist or are they actually doing it? And if they are doing it, you will get the coverage increases and you will get those cross-sell opportunities. If they're not, you'll see very quickly that they're cutting corners, which nobody wants. The nice other thing too is that you can attach these sheets right on into the management system. So the renewal or anything changes, they're all right there, same format, typed. No handwriting issues, just all awesomeness. So I can't speak enough about how we need to operate like this and the need for you guys to go check out this course. We're doing a launch special until the end of January 2023. I don't know when everyone's listening to this podcast. Hopefully, someone 10 years from now picks this up and is like, oh, wow. It'll still be available somewhere 10 years from now, but hopefully it'll be enhanced and different and more technology driven, even. So I wanted to make sure everybody's got a good feeling for it. But if you're looking at it, make sure that you really do focus your team on checklists. Even if there's pushback, the pushback is irrational. It's not methodical. And honestly, after somebody does it for 10 times, those people are like, oh, I kind of like it because I don't have to remember everything. So you're allowing your team to be people and build more rapport with the client versus just being fast and right. And that's huge. So that's our story. That's what we're sticking to today. Check it out. I can't speak enough about it. We've got sales process, a renewal process, remarket process. I even did one, you're going to laugh about this. I did one on how to transfer the phone because one of our top videos was when I lost my mind during COVID about why people can't pick up the freaking phone in agencies. It's like this whole thing where nobody wants to do it. So I literally wrote out when a caller comes in, how to vet the phone call, get it to the right person, confirm contact information. And as I was writing all these processes, it just sort of became apparent like everything starts with that. If we can't nail that down, this has to be a process. But it seems like something so simple yet so has such a big ripple effect in agencies. So that's included. We have a claims process. We have a documentation process. Make sure your documentation is uniform. Proof of insurance process. So there's 10 processes and canceling a policy, how to save those. So we've got all sorts of good stuff going on. I hope you check it out. And if you have any questions, you know how to find us. But check out our podcast Friday, where myself, Stephen Harrington, and Therese Potter dish on this and what we've seen in agencies. We will see you guys soon.